Hi everyone, so right off the bat, this is going to be a controversial video. The first part of the video is going to cover the 2015 GDC presentation of the Superformula and how it applies to No Man's Sky. The second part is going to be showing some of the terrain that we don't currently have in game that is possible in the engine.
Procedural generation with handmade assets. So you can construct a building and you can hand make like walls, windows, doors. And anyone who's worked with like tile sets or modular systems will be looking at that and thinking, yep, that's, we all do that. But what's clever is that you use what's called an L system, which is just a very simple scripting system to dictate how those elements get put together to create a building. So it's a really basic one would be you have walls, you have a door, you have a window, and you have a roof, and then you've got a very simple little house. And obviously, the more rules you have, the more complicated libraries of hundreds of these things, and they can all be applied. We have like a material library, so this guy will be using like probably underwater scales, and we have different markings which are all procedurally generated, and all those things like fins and little spikes, we just have libraries of hundreds of these things, and they can all be applied, and it's pretty cool. In the same way the ships, this is an example of the fighter class of ships. They work a bit more simple than the creatures in that we'll have, like depending on the type, we'll have a few rules, like the fire will have a cockpit, it'll have a nose, it'll have engines. And that way, even though you're getting all these different looking ships, there's kind of a consistency there, so you know just from looking at the silhouette of what kind of ship it is you're chasing after. And when we're building the creatures, we do a lot of planning, because based on that one little blueprint, you're going to get all these different variations. If you do that blueprint badly, you'll just end up with hundreds of thousands of really shit-looking creatures. So this is an example of some of the rules that we've put in place. So when a planet gets generated, it picks, it has a climate and an ecosystem, and a lot of that kind of thing is dictated by how close to the sun it is, or how close a moon it has, and all this kind of thing. And in this case, it's like a swamp-like planet, so it'll have a lot of fog. And what we want for that kind of planet is that for the props that get selected or generated, and for the kind of creatures that you find in that planet, for it to be consistent, for it to be, just for you to accept it, for you to not think it's unusual.
So from the very beginning, we can see that from the inception of No Man's Sky, the focus is on an infinite procedural universe. Every grain of sand, leaf, tree, fauna, flora, planet, spaceships, all can be procedurally generated and be unique. Every planet unique, every animal unique. And yet we don't see that at all in the current state of the No Man's Sky engine. Why is that? Why the departure from this profound sense of exploration to what we have now? What we have now is a great game. But this generation of No Man's Sky players may not even know what the Superformula is and what the controversy is all about. The controversy what is all about that from the inception of No Man's Sky, it was supposed to be an infinite procedurally generated universe. The current engine is using maybe 0.5 to 1% of what the Superformula procedural generation engine is capable of. Why? People say it's because of hardware. You have limitations. It was too taxing. That the math involved in the Superformula, 140 plus lines of code, is not too taxing. They proved that in 2015 when they demonstrated the Superformula procedural generation on a PS4's hardware. I'll repeat that again. That original Superformula procedural generation was running on a PS4 in 2014, 2015. There's no reason for it. The reason for it seems to be that Hello Games and Sean Murray has had a departure from wanting infinite procedural worlds and more of a focus on mainstream toys and elements like base building and all the other various mechanics that we get that lets us do everything except explore. When we explore, we want this profound variety, some of which we're seeing in the background here. This is No Man's Sky 2016 modded with some of my Chimera testing, and later you'll see Atlas Rises with Ray Rod's immersion overhaul and some of my Chimera terrain. And what we see are environments and terrain that cannot be achieved with the current vanilla version of the No Man's Sky engine and the current version of No Man's Sky. It's definitely achievable. The engine is capable of 99% more than what we have is what I'm trying to say. And so for those who think I'm a hater of No Man's Sky, I've been modding No Man's Sky for years. Have a look at my Chimera playlist, my No Man's Sky playlist. There are hundreds of videos of my Chimera testing, and I've come up with some profound results. Beautiful, beautiful results in the No Man's Sky engine. Rayrod is probably one of the most dedicated No Man's Sky overhauler. I mean, he's not just a modder, he's creating software called the Multiverse that he's, neck deep in trying to get finished. That's going to completely harness the engine as best as he can, not having access to the source code, and bring us the original vision of No Man's Sky in this infinite procedural generation. That's what he's working on. If you want to support Rayrod and have a look at what he's up to, I'll leave a link in the description. But the point is, what you're seeing here in the background is just a tiny taste of what is possible with the No Man's Sky engine in regards to environment and terrain. And yet we have a horribly dumbed down version of procedural generation in the current version of No Man's Sky. And so if you want to petition Hello Games, I'll leave a link down below in the description or in the comments section, and you just click on it. It'll take you to the Zendesk, and you can put in a request and just simply request that the next update be a procedural generation overhaul, a Superformula procedural generation overhaul preferably, and so that finally we can have what was promised in 2014, 2015, a Superformula based procedural generation system with infinite variety that we already know, that modders have already proven is capable in the No Man's Sky engine, and Hello Games themselves proved it in 2015, running on a PS4, and yet completely abandoned it. People say they have their reasons. Sure, they have their reasons. It doesn't matter. No Man's Sky was supposed to have it. They promised it, and they must deliver it. If they don't deliver it, well, then they lied, didn't they? And it doesn't matter how angry that makes you. It doesn't matter how many free updates we get. The original premise and the promise of No Man's Sky was an infinite procedural generated universe based on the Superformula. We don't have it. We don't have it 7 years later. So, I hope you feel as passionately as I do about the No Man's Sky engine and what potential we may see with the game. And if you do, please feel free to contact Hello Games through the Zendesk and request a Superformula procedural generation overhaul update.